My name is Emma Thompson, and this is the story of how a forgotten farm turned me from the family disappointment into the one name none of my greedy relatives could ignore. It turns out, the greatest treasures often lie in the places everyone else has already written off. The day of the will reading is etched in my memory like a scar. The law office, clad in dark mahogany paneling, felt more like a coffin than a conference room. Mr. Harrison, our longtime family lawyer, cleared his throat and adjusted his glasses as he prepared to read my parents' final wishes. The car crash that took them had left a $50 million estate, meant to be divided between my sister Sarah and me, or so I believed. To our beloved daughter Sarah, Mr. Harrison began, we leave the investment portfolio, the family estate, and all liquid assets. Sarah's smile curled like a cat with cream, her lipstick was flawless, her satisfaction palpable. And to Emma, Mr. Harrison continued, his tone softening, we leave Grandpa Thompson's farm in Montana. Silence dropped like a stone, then Sarah's laughter rang out, shrill and echoing. A farm? She scoffed, her gold bracelets clinking as she flicked her wrist. How fitting. Emma always preferred dirt to diamonds. I sat frozen. That farm, 200 acres of overgrown land, had sat abandoned since Grandpa died. Dad had dismissed it for years, calling it worthless, and now it was all I had. There must be a mistake, Aunt Patricia said sharply, lips pressed into a disapproving line. They wouldn't leave Emma with just land. But Mr. Harrison only shook his head. The will is explicit. The farm, its structures, and contents all go to Emma. Sarah stood, smoothing the front of her designer dress like a queen preparing for her coronation. Well, enjoy your cows and cobwebs, she said, smirking. If you need a loan, you know where to find me. Family's good for that, at least. All I left with that day was a manila envelope holding the deed and a set of rusted keys. The next morning, I stood before the weather-beaten farmhouse, its paint long faded by decades of neglect. But it wasn't the house that drew my attention, it was the barn. Grandpa Thompson had been an eccentric genius, a mining engineer turned recluse in his final years. He spent most of his time in that barn, and Dad always said he was chasing ghosts. I remembered trailing after him as a child, watching him vanish behind what he'd called our little secret. No one ever found that hidden door after his death. Dad tried once, then gave up, but I remembered the trick, 3 taps on the north wall, then push the 4th board from the bottom. My heart pounded as I mimicked the pattern. Click. A hidden panel creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. With my phone's flashlight cutting through the gloom, I stepped into a cavernous underground room. The walls were lined with geological maps, mining reports, and chemical blueprints. In the center stood a workbench draped in a dusty cover, but it was the safe in the corner that caught my breath. The combination? My birthday. Grandpa never forgot it. In a hidden drawer beneath the workbench, I found a leather-bound journal and a dusty USB drive. The first page of the journal read, "To Emma, the only one who ever truly listened." Tears welled in my eyes as I turned the pages, each one filled with Grandpa's neat handwriting, diagrams, and notes. He hadn't lost his mind, not even close. What he'd discovered beneath this worthless land would reshape the entire mining industry. The farm sat atop one of the largest deposits of rare earth elements in North America, and more incredibly, Grandpa had developed a groundbreaking extraction method, clean, cost-effective, and unlike anything currently in use. The USB drive contained patent documentation, filed, but never activated. He had been waiting, not for recognition, but for the right person, for me. I sat in the dust-filled quiet of that barn-turned-laboratory, the weight of the discovery settling over me. This wasn't just land, this was leverage, wealth, power, the kind my family would stop at nothing to reclaim if they found out. Sarah would challenge my competence, Aunt Patricia would call in favors, they'd bury me in lawsuits and whisper campaigns. I had to be smart, quiet, strategic. That night, I didn't sleep. I read every page of Grandpa's journal by lamplight, committing every detail to memory. When the sun rose, I made 3 calls. One to a patent lawyer, one to a mining engineer, and one to a quiet but brilliant investment banker I'd once worked alongside, one of the few who respected me back when I was just Emma from finance. I gave them all the same instructions. Absolute confidentiality. What I'm about to show you will change everything. The next 6 months passed in a blur of secrecy and calculated moves. While Sarah posed at charity galas and curated her online image, I built a team. The barn was transformed into a sleek command center, retrofitted with state-of-the-art technology. Under layers of dust and disregard, we unearthed a revolution. These patents, Dr. Chin, our lead engineer, said one night as he reviewed Grandpa's process, this changes everything. He wasn't just ahead of his time, he was decades ahead. I nodded, now it's ours to finish. Demand for rare earth elements was surging, from smartphones to solar panels, electric vehicles to defense tech. We were sitting on a literal gold mine, and no one knew but us. We quietly incorporated Thompson Sustainable Resources, using a web of shell companies to shield our operations. I funneled in the investment capital myself, money I'd earned through the very financial work my family once sneered at. Then came Sarah's wedding, an opulent affair at the family estate. I almost skipped it, but silence would raise suspicion, so I went. Emma, Sarah greeted me with her usual artificial warmth, still playing farmer? Her husband, some hedge fund hotshot, chuckled beside her. It's been enlightening, I said, sipping my champagne. By the way, how's the tech side of your portfolio doing? Sarah blinked. Excuse me? I've heard supply chain issues are hammering companies dependent on rare earth elements. Might be worth taking a look. She stiffened. I haven't checked. You should. 3 weeks later, while Sarah was honeymooning in the Maldives, we broke ground on our first extraction site. By the time she returned, Thompson Sustainable Resources had locked in contracts with 3 of the biggest tech firms in the world. The news broke in the Wall Street Journal. Emerging company disrupts rare earth market with breakthrough extraction tech. Our valuation soared past $1 billion by the end of day 1. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Calls, messages, emails, every relative suddenly remembered my number. Emma, Sarah finally got through, breathless. Why didn't you tell us? We're family. I paused, then, quietly, are we? Because I was under the impression I inherited dirt. The storm came fast. Sarah and Aunt Patricia lawyered up, claiming the patents and intellectual property should have been part of the estate. They argued I'd concealed assets, that I wasn't capable of managing a billion-dollar company. But Grandpa had been one step ahead. As always, his will left everything on the farm, land, structures, and any contents intellectual or material, to me. The lab's location on the property sealed it. Every discovery, every patent, every byte of data was mine. The final showdown came at a hastily arranged family meeting at the mansion. I walked into the same dining room where they'd once mocked my underwhelming job and my lack of ambition. Now, they watched me with a mix of panic and barely concealed envy. You have to understand, Sarah began, bracelets clinking nervously. Dad would have wanted us to share in this. I pulled out Grandpa's journal and flipped to a marked page. Dear Emma, I read aloud, I'm leaving you this farm because you saw its value beyond dollar signs. Your father and sister chase wealth. You chase knowledge. That's why you'll succeed where they failed. The room fell silent. I looked up, eyes locking with Sarah's. You know what the difference is between us? I asked, snapping the journal shut. When you inherited the family fortune, I wished you well. When I built something of my own, you tried to steal it. Sarah opened her mouth. We can work something out. No, I interrupted. We can't. But I'll give you a free tip, invest in sustainable tech. Thompson Sustainable Resources is about to announce a major expansion. I turned and walked out of the mansion, heels clicking against the marble floor. Behind me, Aunt Patricia called out, her voice sharp with judgment. Your parents would be ashamed of how selfish you're being. I stopped in the doorway and looked back one last time. No, I said quietly. They'd be ashamed they never saw what Grandpa saw in me. But that's their loss, just like this company is your loss. Today, Thompson Sustainable Resources is valued at over $12 billion. We've revolutionized the mining industry, cleaner, smarter, sustainable. The old farm is now a cutting-edge research campus. I kept the barn exactly as Grandpa left it. Hidden door and all. Sarah still reaches out now and then, usually when she wants something. Just last month, she called about investing in one of our newer ventures. I had my assistant refer her to our public investor relations line. Not long after, the family mansion hit the market. Sarah's reckless spending and failed investments finally caught up with her. I quietly bought the property through a shell company. Today, it houses a science and innovation center for underprivileged kids. Yesterday, I got an invitation to speak at my old high school's graduation. The topic? Finding value in unexpected places. I accept it immediately. I already know how I'll start. Because sometimes, the greatest fortune isn't what you're handed, it's what you uncover when everyone else has stopped looking. I still live in Grandpa's house. Renovated, yes, but filled with the same quiet strength. Every morning, I walk to the barn and tap that secret panel. And every time it swings open, I remember the man who saw through appearances, who believed in knowledge, who believed in me. They say success is the best revenge. But I've learned it's not about revenge at all. It's about building something no one thought you could. It's about legacy, not what you inherit, but what you create. And sometimes, the most valuable inheritance isn't money, it's vision.